Hello and welcome to Movie Nights. We're going to have a very special episode today. We've got Ed and Odysseus, and we're going to be talking about a film called The Coldest Game. Now, it's a film from 2019, I believe. You can watch it on Netflix. It's a Netflix original, and it's about a chess game in 1962 between the USA and the Soviet Union, and the kind of wider impact that it had between involving the Cuban Missile Crisis, Cold War, this kind of thing. And stars Bill Pullman as a central character, and it's a film filmed in Poland with a predominantly Polish cast and crew, as far as I'm aware. Now I'll go to Odysseus first because Odysseus is the one who actually recommended this film to us. So I was interested to know what made you watch this film and what you thought of it. Like, so.
Right. Okay. So before giving any thoughts to my film, there's something that I need to say that sort of prefaces a lot of my feelings about this movie, and a bit of a confession that I've actually not told Ed or Albert off camera. That is, I haven't
watched it.
I spent this entire movie convinced that it was a true story.
No, I looked it up in the first 10 minutes and I was like, oh no, it's not.
You know what the best bit is? Not only did I think this was a true story, that those that aren't familiar with Movie Night will know that myself, Albert, and Ed appear on a political podcast called A Week in Politics. And I actually wanted to have the American chess player on as a special guest. I Googled him. So basically, the point that I'm making from this general embarrassment is that I probably think this movie is slightly better than it actually is, because I was so engaged with it because I actually thought it was real.
Yeah, I can see how that would elevate it a lot.
Yeah, it really did. It made, I mean, on the plus side, this is like a Saturday evening in lockdown, so it really did improve my night, the enjoyment of my evening quite a lot. But right, now that's out of the way. So to get to what I thought about it, first and foremost, the guy that runs the hotel, absolute legend. I love his character so much. Like he's just so cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
One thing that I need to praise, anyone that's seen a couple of movie night reviews from me, I'm very big on languages. It really annoys me when like the language aspect is just really stupid or something. And they actually get it right in this one. Like they just do it as you should, which is all like characters just speak the language that they actually would speak, and then just put subtitles at whatever like audience you're aimed at. So that's one thing that I really like about the film. I think that it's interesting, there are some links to real events. Like one thing I was fascinated to read was that I think that the hypnotizing chess match was based on a game that Karpov played in. I can't remember who he played against. The guy that he was playing against was someone who defected from the Soviet Union, and Karpov was obviously Soviet. So they really needed to win that game because they couldn't have the defect to win. So there is evidence they hypnotized Karpov's opponent to make Karpov win, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I think that it's a very interesting movie. It has a lot of plot twists, slightly confusingly so. I got a little bit confused at that bit after the toilet scene where the American woman gets killed and the other guy gets killed who's supposedly Soviet. That bit threw me a bit, but generally, I think it's quite an interesting film. It'd be interesting to know what you guys think about it.
Yeah, just before we go on, I'm just interested, how did you find this film? Like, how did you find it on Netflix? Were you just searching for it, or was it recommended?
Oh, how did I find this? I actually, basically what happened was, I wanted to watch a movie about a guy called Bobby Fischer, who he's one of the best American chess players, pretty much of all time, I think. I think he might be the first American world champion, who had a big rise and fall. I don't know that much about him. I couldn't find that, and this came up as recommended and looked quite interesting, so I watched it.
Yeah. Well, of course, we all have a background in chess, or certainly.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
Oh, actually, I'll just very quickly mention one criticism I had of it, which was in the first game where Mansky wins and they make out it's such a genius move.
Yeah.
I actually, as an avid chess player, I paused this and replayed it multiple times, and basically that he's in a terrible position.
Yeah.
In that point where it's supposedly a great move, Gavrilov is one rook and one knight up with about the same amount of pawns, and Mansky has no pieces left. It makes no sense that Gavrilov walks off. He's battering Mansky. and Mansky he just doesn't do anything.
If you know anything about chess, like the idea that this like basically #1 in Russia player could be playing like, you know, all like old confident, and then the other guy makes one move, and then he's like, "Oh no, I'm fucked." Like chess doesn't work like that.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah.
It's just like, but yeah, that was my biggest criticism of the film. It's just like it almost you could tell it was fictional because it was just like yeah, some of it's
Well, I had to Google it because at first I
no,
thought
I did too.
I did this really happen, and then when I looked up, I was like, oh right, okay. Like,
Well, I figured that even if it was real, a lot of the details were embellished. I mean, the whole thing with like, oh, he can only play when he's drunk. It was just so stupid. It's like, oh, he's like Einstein. It slows his brain down. It's like, shut the fuck up. And like, yeah, just the whole like, it's all very far-fetched. But I think the biggest thing for me was like, it wasn't really even about the chess game in the end. It just turned into like a normal, badly written spy thriller towards the end. I mean, he gives up on the chess halfway through. It wasn't like this symbolic thing. The whole reason that they sent him to play the chess game was so that you could get a message from their inside agent. So, like, why? You know, what was even the point?
I know what you mean at times. Like at times, I feel like the chess isn't really that important to the story. Almost like it almost is like secondary. The fact that he's actually trying to get this document is almost the main point of the film.
Well, like Oddy said, it was like that was a real story where the Soviets really wanted this guy to lose because he was like a Soviet beat and stuff like that. Like, if you know anything about the Cold War, you realize how petty like two powers were. I feel like they would be pretty interested in a chess game like between the two. Like, I feel like they would be pretty invested in trying to make their guy win. It would have been more interesting to focus on that aspect of it, but it's like it's kind of just this catalyst for a boring spy movie to take place.
See, I don't know. I slightly disagree there. I think that the chess does remain relevant. I think that, you know, they bring in Mansky in the first place, you know, as someone who can beat Gavrilov. I think that also when they mention the fact that he needs to draw with Gavrilov, like as he does, I think I can't remember which game.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point.
Like I think that there is still that element of the chess, but I think that it's fair to say there's more than just that to the film. I mean, at the end of the day, if it was just a fictional chess game, it probably wouldn't have made that good a film. Like they do need to have bit more to it. And in fairness, I think that there is a fair bit of realism in that. And obviously, you know, as is shown in the film, there's a lot of like important people watching, which could have been the case. So the fact that, you know, it gets mixed up, I think that it's like a somewhat viable storyline. So I sort of understand why they do it. I also want to throw in just a bit of discussion about their drunken night out in Warsaw, because I think that is fantastic. I just love the bit where he like puts the vodka in the toilet and he's like, "This is for after chess." Oh, during.
Like, it takes me back to chess club in school. It was a lot like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of drinking, a lot of parties. No, yeah, that was fun. There was a lot of like good character moments, specifically from that one character that you're talking about. The main character though was so annoying.
I think
mainly because of the whole drunken thing.
The thing is, what do you think of the other like American, you know, the woman and man?
God, the woman. This is what I like to call an eye roll film. Where like there's so many lines that just make you go, oh my fucking God. Like when she's like, what does she say? Oh, I'm beginning to understand. And he's like, what? It's like, you. It's like, oh, shut up. Like, God, she's so annoying. And like, I guess this is a spoiler review, is it? Are we spoiling things? Yeah. Like the whole twist with her doesn't really make any sense because she gave him the fake plans, right? And that was supposed to throw them off. Like he was supposed to give that to his boss and like, You know what I mean? Like they were supposed to take that back.
She was the double agent, essentially.
Yeah, she was the double agent, but then he's like,
led to believe it was the Russian guy who was bad, but it was
actually... yeah. But that, so like that's fine. And I did kind of call it, not to like, you know, make myself sound smart, but it was pretty obvious that she was like going to be a double agent. But like, the whole point was like, yeah, she was going to give him the false information, and he was going to take it back, and that would like, you know, that would throw them off. But then they found that like needle in her bag as if she was going to kill him, but like that wouldn't make any, like, why would she kill him if she wanted him to deliver the message? That would just make it look even dodgier, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Sorry, rambling. Albert, what do you think?
Well, I kind of in between. I might have enjoyed it slightly more than Ed, but maybe not quite as much as Odysseus. What I felt like I didn't really get to know the main character enough. Like, if you think about like in the very first scene, he's just kind of in a bar and he's playing cards, and he's obviously very good at cards. He's very good at chess and all this stuff, and he's obviously drinks a lot. And then he gets immediately like sent off to play the chess game. You don't really get, like, not that you need like hours of setup beforehand, but you don't really get that much of an idea about his character other than the fact
those are his two character traits.
Yeah, he's very good at chess and he drinks a lot. You don't really get as much of a sense of the main characters as you know, for me. Like, I think it's a very interesting idea that this chess game took place. I liked a lot of I think that most of the acting was decent, and I liked the fact that the way that the like Cold War Poland was set up was good. Like, I liked all the sets and stuff. That was all very convincing, considering the movie probably didn't have that high a budget. I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah.
Certainly not as high a budget as Bridge of Spies or something like that.
No, I'm probably being a bit harsh. I definitely enjoyed it more towards the end when stuff started to move quicker and like it got a bit more interesting with, like, you know, when he starts to figure stuff out, basically. I was just a bit off towards the beginning. I would disagree a bit about the acting. It was, some of it was all right, especially like Oddie's favorite character. He was great.
Yeah.
But like the woman was pretty bad. The main character was pretty bad. Do you remember the part where he's in the hotel room and he's like, oh, he's dead. He was a human being and he died. Like, it was like so out of left field, and it reminded me of The Room. Like, it was like...
I think that's a fair point. The thing is, though, I think that there's a number of good performances. I think that, for instance, the Russian general is very good. I just think he's a very strong character. Like, he just, in the way that he conducts himself, it just feels like he just plays that role really well. Like I mentioned, I think that the guy that runs the hotel is, you know, excellent, second to none. I want to just throw him on, just on a side note, one quick criticism of this movie. It frustrated me when they served goulash instead of bigos. I felt that it would have been more traditionally Polish to do bigos. In terms of the acting, I also thought, I think that I can't remember what his name is, the American one that like is kind of the general of it all, like the main agent.
The balding guy.
Yeah.
I think he's a fairly solid character.
He was good.
But yeah, I think that you could say that maybe there's mixed acting, but I think there is some.
I thought that was almost down to the characters to me more than the actual acting, in terms of like
the writing.
Just playing like stock characters. Like the woman was just playing like.
Oh, she was like
woman who then turns out to be double agent. She didn't really like.
Her lines were awful. Like, I can't really give it too much shit.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something else.
Oh wait, what? Whilst you sort of like get that, I was just gonna say, I like the way that I think that the context. I think they get the Polish context fairly good. Like, I think that the inclusion of the Palace of Culture is something that's really good, and I think that like the way that they sort of have like the attitudes of the hotel owner when he's sort of talking about both the history with the war, also the like the sort of the way the attitudes towards the Americans and the Russians. I think that all of that is played out fairly well.
Yeah, it gives it a more interesting perspective, because a lot of Cold War films you see are usually from an American perspective. You know, like this is obviously a Polish-made film, you know, with a largely Polish cast and crew, Polish writers, all this kind of thing. So I think Odysseus is right in that it gives a slightly different perspective than a lot of other films might do. Although, of course, the main character is still American. So,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that it's still. I think that it's like it's still fairly
Still
American
pro-American.
centric
yeah,
in the sense that
despite that, yeah, he's still managed.
But I think like as in I'd still maybe have the criticism of a number of films that is quite American centric, but I'd probably say that what it does well at is just not trampling on like it like the whole Polish thing could have just been trampled on if it wasn't a Polish made film. Like it could have just
Yeah.
been on
Just
some
window
other
dressing.
random communist country, but like I think that they do sort of bring it in quite well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just to head back a bit, like the main bad guy, I guess you'd call him, the Russian general.
Yeah.
He was very like, I do agree that I liked his performance and stuff, but he was a bit over the top, like almost Nazi-ish evil,
Yeah,
if you know what I
when
mean.
he was doing like the knife thing on the guy's hand,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, like that's just.
Also, he was talking like a lot of bullshit about Russia. Like he was being like, "Oh, we respect our women more than the United States." Like, what you want about? Like, I don't know. Like they tried to make him like three-dimensional about halfway through, but he's still like basically Hitler.
Yeah.
And also he doesn't really do much like in general. Like I guess he sort of stops the guy from drinking and stuff, but in the end, he's gonna shoot the guy, and then his boss comes and is like, "No, no, you can't shoot him. He's American." Then he's like, "All right." But like, I feel like he's the kind of guy that wouldn't give a shit about that, especially when they said that he killed like 11 American spies or something like that.
Yeah, I think
That was a small thing.
because he's more high profile. That actor actually, interestingly, is in a Polish film about Lech Wałęsa. Lech Wałęsa,
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually quite a good film, actually.
I think I might have seen that film,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
can't. It was a while ago.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Just if you're more interested in Polish cinema, of course, the last Polish film I saw was 365 Days.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it's fair to say that this is
slightly
about.
better than that.
So should
Yeah.
we move on to like our sort of summary and stars out of 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ask you first, Odysseus, then for your summary.
Okay, so my summary is that this is a film that has numerous aspects about it, mainly including like certain characters and also being from the Polish perspective that make it above average for the type of film that it is. And I also do still quite like the the plot, even though I acknowledge a lot of the criticisms that you and Ed have raised, especially like some of the sort of the writing of it. So for that reason, I'll land at a 3.5 stars.
How about you, Ed?
I'm struggling to think whether it's like worth the watch or not. I'd say overall it is, because I think Oddie's right. It's sort of a unique perspective on that whole era, but it's you just have to get through a lot of not good writing and annoying characters and stuff. I think I give it like a 2 out of 5 or so.
Yeah, I'd be possibly slightly more inclined to Ed. I'd say it might be worth a watch if you're particularly interested in the Cold War, like, or
Yeah.
kind of story. Like, if you're not that interested in that, you probably wouldn't get that much out of it. But I think that there's enough in there to make it interesting. I'd probably give it a 2.5, getting close to 3. It's certainly interesting. And I did. There was a moment when I did think it was a true story. I wasn't.
I did too. No, I did too.
I was it's because the way it frames it. It says like, in 1962, this is what happened, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought like, well, it's reasonable to assume that they would have had a chess match between the two countries. But as it went on, I thought, strange that I've never heard of this. That's but yeah,
I'm sure they had chess matches. That's the thing. Like,
yeah, I'm certain it must be based on some reality. There is. I'm sure the guy that mentioned like Königsberg or something, like who got killed.
Yeah.
I think he's real.
I'm not. I don't know. I mean, like the fact that politicized chess matches happened is like very much real. So like,
yeah.
there is that element. Obviously, the Cuban Missile Crisis obviously happened. So there are quite a bit, and like I mentioned, the hypnotist as well. So there are like quite big shades of truth in it. Just not the specific like story. Not maybe the interconnectedness of the two is what it was made up.
Yeah. Embellished.
Okay.
Right, yeah. Well, if you're interested in checking it out, it is available on Netflix. So thank you guys for talking to us, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.